Well, good morning and welcome to the second of our Easter week reflections this Tuesday morning. Hopefully you've managed to find a Bible in front of you, or have got a Bible Gateway or something else up on screen, and you will have found Matthew chapter 26, and we're going to be looking at verses 36 to 56 this morning. And as with yesterday, my plan is just to draw out two different things for you to reflect and meditate on today. In this incident of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and then with his subsequent arrest, I'd like us to look at this passage, firstly reflecting on what we learn about Jesus, and then I'd like us to contrast that with the disciples. So let's look at Jesus first. And we meet Jesus in the garden, and he is praying. But look what he is going through. If you've got a Bible, have a look at verse 38. Jesus says, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." Why not take a moment to think what Jesus is going through? What would it look like for someone to be overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death? What does Jesus do with that sorrow? Well, he prays. Have a look what he prays. "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Jesus here makes a request that the cup will be taken away from him. I'll come to that in a moment. But his prayer is one that ultimately he will be obedient to the Father's will. Actually, that prayer to take the cup away, it doesn't happen. So why not take a moment to think, what do we learn about prayer in this passage? What does it look like to pray, "Not my will, but your will be done"? Why not think about that cup as well? The cup in the Old Testament is a picture of God's judgment, God's wrath being poured out. Jesus recognises that he is about to go to the cross to bear God's judgment, to bear God's wrath for sin. Of course, the sin he will bear that wrath for is not his own. He is the perfect obedient one. It is for our sin. So why not take a moment to think about our sin, to reflect on the reality of God's wrath, and think through what Jesus went through for us, how he was overwhelmed with sorrow as he headed to that cross for my sin and for your sin. Finally, notice how Jesus is in complete control during the arrest. Notice how Jesus even calls Judas his friend. When others want to pick up swords, Jesus is again in control. He knows where he is heading. He is obedient to the last. Have a look yourself. What do you learn about Jesus from these verses? And then secondly, just briefly, have a look at the disciples. Firstly, we meet them sleeping. They're unable even to pray. We then meet Judas, betrays him with a kiss. Where does the passage end? Have a look at verse 56. "All this had taken place that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples deserted him and fled." The end of the passage. Jesus is left alone. Jesus is going to the cross, a place we deserve, but he goes in our place. I want to take some moments to reflect on these things again this morning.